Socrates once said, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. And I like to connect that to the paradox of learning, which the thing about paradox of learning is once you start realizing how it works and you start getting into that paradox of itself, you kind of get into that humble, ignorant kind of state, you know, where you realize that you know a lot, but at the same time, you realize that you know nothing. It's just like the old, I don't know who came up with that system, to be honest, but it's when they split a piece of paper in four different sections. The first section goes like, I know what I know. I know what I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know what I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know what I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And in a way or another, I guess you can connect it to the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, that was what I was reading about earlier,
Exactly.
actually.
And I'm just going to pass the mic to
Yeah.
you since you already know a bit more about this
So
than I do, I guess.
at least on what I know, it's basically a cognitive bias where when you're approaching a certain topic that you don't know anything about and you start to learn, maybe you read a book, you know the basics, you start to have this overconfidence that you know so much about the topic and you can offer so much to the world and that your knowledge is so big. And then the deeper you dive into it, the more you realize that the topic is so vast and nuanced and that you actually don't know anything about it. And as an example from my life, like, I don't know, 4 years ago now, I did some psychology courses online. They were really beneficial and helpful. And after I finished them, I thought I could be this therapist who can help people and everything. And then when I started to read more about psychology, more psychology books and podcasts from real psychologists, I started to realize that there's so much to know and it's so complicated. There's so many things that and terms that I have no clue about. Who am I to do therapy on someone else? You know, it's that's not how it works. You know, and at least for me, that feels like a perfect example of this cognitive bias, how prominent it is. But what I wonder about is, why do you think we have this cognitive bias? Why does this paradox of knowledge exist in the first place?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
And that's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know the exact answer to that. I can answer it based on my own experience and based on how I've had things or faced things so far in my life. It, like, again, we're talking about the paradox of learning, and right now in my brain, the paradox of learning is taking its effect of like, oh, I can answer this in a certain way, but at the same time, I don't know what's
Exactly.
actually going on.
Yeah.
Regardless, I feel like when we start learning something new, and we've got this excitement about learning it, and this dopamine rush, you know, you learn the basics, and then you start you kind of get bored of the subject, maybe, or maybe the dopamine runs out. That you start kind of lying to yourself in the sense of like, oh, okay, I know this,
Okay,
and I
that's
know
interesting.
that, and I think and it gives you confidence because you're starting to learn something new. It builds. It's like you're fitting a new piece of puzzle of yourself into that, whole picture of who you are, and that kind of gives you an ego boost. Just like when you're doing anything, we talked about self-created problems in the last episode and how small things can give you like an ego boost. And I think it's the same when you start learning something new. It kind of gives you an ego boost that you start kind of lying and believing as well at the same time that you know about this subject more than anybody else.
That's an interesting perspective. I
And
didn't think
then
about
that
it.
usually would lead you to taking more risky actions maybe in that regard.
Okay.
So like for example, we're going to take basketball here as an example. Any kind of sport actually works. I'm just taking basketball because I used to play basketball. And when I started learning how to play basketball at the beginning, I was getting an ego boost that, hey, I'm learning really fast, like everybody else is learning slower than I am.
I know so
But
much.
the fact is that everybody else was already in an advanced level than I am. So their learning curve was slower than me naturally.
Okay.
So my learning curve was faster. And that was kind of giving me an ego boost of like, oh, okay, I'm learning so fast. I'm learning so much, I know how to dribble. I know how to take a shot and this and that, And then that put me that got me to take more risky shots and more risky actions during the game than everybody else was like more aware of what's going on. And as you tend to do or take more risky actions, you naturally or you logically or mathematically or statistically even would hit more shots.
Okay, that makes
You
sense.
know what I mean? And then again, like I'm just connecting the dots here as well. It gives you the illusion that you know a lot because you've got the ego boost, you're taking more risky
Yeah.
actions, and naturally, because you're taking more risky actions, you're hitting the targets more. And because your ego is boosted, your ego is not going to allow you to kind of demean it. So the ego is going to look for confirmation bias of what's
Sure.
going on around you and how it's going well and how you suddenly know a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think this ties to another point why this happened is just this, how we compare ourselves to others. So you mentioned that your peers had like a slower learning
Yeah.
curve and you were learning faster. So you're comparing yourself to those other
Absolutely.
players who were,
Absolutely.
and they were worse than you. So you think that
They were not worse than me.
Mhm.
Just to clarify, they were just slower in the learning
but
curve
in the moment,
because they were more advanced.
sure.
You know what I
Sure.
mean?
But if you were with other people who were in the moment much
Mhm.
better than you and you've already learned the basic and starting to get more advanced,
Mhm.
then you're gonna compare yourself in the other direction.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
I think comparison plays a big role on why it happens.
For sure.
Yeah. And
It's in our tendencies as human beings to compare ourselves
Mhm.
to other people as well. It's just in our nature.
true.
The difference is here is what you make out of that comparison, you
Mhm.
know, and how you're taking advantage of it. But I think
Yeah.
like there is no escaping comparing.
There is no
ourselves to
escaping
other-
it.
Exactly.
It's just another reason. I just mentioned it because it feels like another big reason why we have this paradox of knowledge and how the more you know, the more you start to compare. Like, okay, I'm learning more about psychology now. Now I can compare myself more to real psychologists and
Mhm.
stuff. And
Mhm.
you know, it can be beneficial and it can backfire at the same time.
Mhm.
Also, something important is I think I mentioned at the beginning of the episode how the more you know about the topic, the more you realize how nuanced it is, how vast it is, and
Yeah.
when you are going into it, you don't have awareness of it.
Yeah,
You are
exactly.
ignorant. You don't know anything. But
Exactly.
as the quote that you mentioned, like the more you know, the more you realize the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know, and that's so true about any
everything,
topic.
yeah.
Any topic that you think it's basic. Like now, when I see people playing sports, whether it's hockey, whether it's basketball, I start to think that it's really simple and it's really easy to do. But I'm pretty sure when I start playing these sports, the more I realize these small details that I have no clue about, and they are hard to master. You know,
It's also connected to your awareness
Mhm.
because like I'm just building up upon what you were just saying right now. You know, when you're take any subject, like I don't want to get stuck into the loop of basketball, but we're just gonna take any subject here at hand. And when you're learning something, when you're doing something new, your awareness of what's I have a better angle actually on this. Everything in life is like an equation.
Mhm.
You know, you've got this plus this plus this minus this multiplied by this,
Yeah.
whatever, and then you get the subject at hand or the goal or the sport or whatever it is. And when you're starting to learn about something, your equation consists of only maybe one or two elements.
Yeah.
And since you know what these one or two elements, you believe that this is all there is to it.
Sure.
Because the rest of it is still kind of hidden
Mhm.
for you. And then the more you learn about this subject, the more you realize that the equation is actually bigger than just, you know, X and Y.
Yeah.
There's a Z and there's a C and then
Sure.
there's a B and then there's an A and I don't know what else. So your awareness, as the more you learn, your awareness of the
growing.
subjects becomes bigger and bigger. And thus the equation of the subject becomes bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And that's when you start realizing that, okay, if at some point, I guess that's when the, you know, the overconfidence completely gets crushed is when you realize like, oh shit, you know, within 3 months, for example, I've realized that there's like 10 different elements of this subject that I didn't know existed. So maybe if I invest like a year time in this, maybe I will find another 200 elements that I didn't know they existed.
Yeah.
And that's when the overconfidence from the beginning of learning starts to crush.
Start to shrink.
Not just shrinks. Like it depends on the learning curve and everything, but it could crush. So again, I just want to make sure here that everybody knows this. Like I said, I don't know how it works. I've never really gotten so deep into the paradox of learning. I'm just taking things based on my experience and based on how I perceive them to be. They could be completely different, but this is
But
just
I
like
think-
how I perceive them for myself, at least.
I think there is still another layer here that I could say the same thing that you said, but not just about a certain topic, just about life in general, how everything is
anything, yeah.
connected. When you learn anything, whatever topic it is, it will lead you to something else.
Definitely.
And the more you go through this process, the more you learn about something, it will lead you to, the more you realize there's so many things that you have no idea about.
But
Even if you master the topic, you will realize how it is so connected to this other thing that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Then you start learning about that. It leads you to this. At least that's how my journey was the last
it's
3-4 years.
like I'm gonna take a general topics here as an example. Once you start learning about politics, for example, in politics, economy is definitely got to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
They both affect
even
each
history.
other. Exactly. I was coming to that, and then at some point you're gonna start realizing that okay, history has got a huge part to do with it. So you've got politics, economics, history, and then you go into the culture aspect of it, and then there's the religion aspect of it, and then you've got the traditions, and then you've got the
Even
generational roles,
psychology of politics,
and the human psychology, and then you realize that oh god, like I was just trying to learn how politics works, and then suddenly I'm covering everything.
Yeah,
that kind of exists so far.
Things you thought you're not interested in, now they're interesting. You know,
it's just how things are correlated. And again, I'm just gonna apply the awareness example here. You know, at the beginning, you're aware, for example, of only politics and what politics are, and then as time goes on, you realize, okay, economy belongs into that, you know, that sphere of politics.
Yeah.
So the sphere or the awareness becomes bigger, and then another topic comes in, and then another topic, and another topic, and then at some point your awareness is so big and you realize that from all the sphere I only know how politics work to a certain degree, but I have no clue how all of the other things influence politics.
But I think this sphere is limitless. I don't think I don't think it's something you can cover all of it. Like, okay, in my lifetime I'm going to learn about everything.
Even if you do, there's still stuff that could be outside of your awareness.
Yeah,
that you don't know. Outside of our all awareness. Of the whole, awareness of everybody on the planet. So even if you try to cover it.
Our reality.
That would be better. Even if you try to cover the whole thing, have you actually covered the whole thing?
Yeah, you don't know.
Because when you start, again, back to the sheet
if you don't know, if you don't know and nobody knows, there is nobody to compare with.
Exactly.
Who's higher than you, then you can't know. There's no way to know.
It's again the sheet with the 4 sections. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. I don't know what I know, and then I don't know what I don't know. So your awareness can always expand more and more.
The thing is, I feel like for many knowledge seekers, including me in the past, we like to know more, and we wish that we could just know everything about the world, how everything began, where things are going to go. But that's not going to happen. And this might feel like something negative, like it puts you down. Okay, then what's the point of knowing more? But I feel like at the same time, this paradox of knowledge has a lot of positive things that we can, that there's a lot of things to learn. That the most important thing is something you mentioned in the first minute of the episode, which is the humility it gives you.
The humble ignorance.
Exactly. That you start to become humble, that you don't know much. Because we see on media and in politics how people have these strong opinions about things. They think they know everything and they start to clash and argue with each other. If they realized what this paradox of knowledge does, that they don't know much, that they are falling to different cognitive biases like the confirmation bias and everything, and how little they know, and that they both can ever offer something to the conversation. They both know different things, and they both don't know enough. So it really gives you this humility, and like you start to come back to earth, I guess.
It's that the curious. If you're someone who's curious and you're someone who want to learn, and this is something that I had to come to terms with in my life, and I don't want to I'm not even that far in it, but something that's, as time is passing by and as I'm learning more and more, I'm starting to realize that sometimes it's better to, who said that? See, my brain is connecting dots right now as we're talking about topic. Some speaker said that be the last to speak, and that's also related to humble ignorance, in the sense of if you're someone who's curious, if you're someone who's seeking to learn things, and you're aware that what you know is not, covering the whole subject, and it never will be, when you start just when there's a discussion about a certain topic somewhere, you start learning kind of to put some distance between your thoughts, what you want to say, and what you're listening, just because what the other person is saying can be a learning experience to you.
Yeah.
So it's happened to me many times that I've gotten into, because I've been trying to learn economy for a while now. You know that. And in the past, when I started learning economy or learning a little bit of economy, I was always, economy. Oh, but I gotta say my opinion. I gotta tell them what I know. Like I know I've got it figured out. Everything is going well for me. And then as time went on, and right now at this stage of my life as well, when I get into a discussion related to economy, in most cases, I'm trying to remain as silent as possible. Not because I'm withholding information or anything, but because what the other person is talking about can give me a new perspective and can lead me to learning. So the paradox of learning is not only like the humble ignorant. I find that to be related to be the last to speak, because then you have the opportunity to learn from other people, and their perspective or their opinions can lead you to finding more things that are related to the subject that you really want to learn about.
Hey.
And then that's going to expand your knowledge and your awareness.
Honestly, you can apply that not just to learning, even in your relationships.
You can apply that
You can apply that to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think this paradox of knowledge, maybe we fixate too much on the word knowledge, that we think it's only about, okay, the topic that we're learning, but honestly, you can apply it to everything. Like, even when you look at people, we start to make these judgments, these superficial judgments that, he's angry, he's an angry person who does this and that. And then the more you know them, the more you realize you don't know them and how complex human beings are in general.
Definitely.
So you can really take it to so many different things in life.
I would take psychology as an example, at least from my experience as well. When I started learning about psychology and human behavior and all the cognitive or all the biases that we've got, and I was still at the very beginning, I got to that point where I was too arrogant, and I was maybe not instantly judging somebody, but I'm instantly building an image of someone, of who they are and who they could be. And I always presume that, okay, this is how they are. I've read about what they're doing right now in that book. I've heard about this from that psychologist, so what they're doing right now is technically, I don't know, they're being passive aggressive about it. They're reflecting this and that. And then as time went on, I realized that, especially when it comes to human beings, it doesn't matter how much you know, because
you don't know anything.
The deepness of another soul or the deepness of another human being is not to be taken lightly, that you think you can know them within a day or two or within a week or two, or that you can build that image of them of who they are.
That's a good sentence.
Because getting to the depth of somebody doesn't just take knowledge from other books, but it also takes engaging with this person and trying to figure out, maybe not trying to figure out, but giving them the space to let that side out of themselves, who they actually are. And then again, the more you realize that they've got sides that you're not aware of, the more you're going to realize, okay, so there is more about this person that I don't know yet.
But this is also the thing. Like, instead of being disappointed that you can't know everything, it should be maybe exciting that the sea is endless and this knowledge thing is a journey that never ends. It can really be your biggest hobby and your biggest passion. You keep doing it your whole life. You will never reach the ceiling, and that can be a positive thing instead of a negative thing, that there's always so much more to explore in your lifetime, so much more to know. So yeah, it's really an endless journey that you embark on, I guess.
That's why I took the curious type and the learner type as an example earlier, because I used to be the arrogant type who always wanted to learn and just get it on with. And when I started realizing about the paradox of learning, that kind of started putting me back, like, my confidence, my ego.
Yeah, exactly.
All of it just kind of crushed down.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
disappointment.
What's the point of learning?
Exactly.
It
happened to me.
And then as time went on, like, especially this year at least, or the past half year, my curiosity is starting to come back up again. So, okay, I've learned about this topic this much, and there's still so much more to learn. And it's also part of the experience that I can learn more, that I can know more. And then, I can connect more dots. I know that by the end of my life, I'm not going to get to know everything.
But you're going to know a lot.
It's like you've got the sea, and you're diving in it. And then the more you dive, the more you're able to see, the more you're able to understand, the more you're able to, depending on what your purpose, what your goal is in life, but the more you can build on that goal. And you learn as the more that I dive, the more that I learn, the more that I realize that there's still a lot more that I don't
Yeah.
know, the more that I can build, the more that I can let my curiosity out to know things, to ask questions, to seek out more knowledge.
But see, this is the thing. If we need to approach this in the mindset of like just curiosity and being open-minded in general, not for the sake of being right. Because if you're
Definitely
looking to be right and
Definitely.
proving people and just finding the truth about everything, you're going to be frustrated and disappointed for most of your life, because there's so many things that there are some things we can answer and we have facts, but not everything. And if you're going to take it from that egoistic perspective, then you're going to be frustrated so often. But if you take it just in the sense that you're curious about this topic, you want to know more about biology, about podcasting, about history, about whatever thing, then you're going to be fine with the fact that this learning journey might never end.
But even see, that's where we don't even know, based on the paradox of learning, if you want to take it a step deeper, you know how I've been saying that not every fact is a fact, or every fact or the facts that we have nowadays might still be wrong. That's because the paradox of learning, it's a fact based on the
what we know.
awareness that we've got. So technically it's not a fact, it's just an opinion.
It depends.
Marcus Aurelius said that everything that we hear is an opinion, not a fact. And he said that everything that we see is a perspective, not reality. And I connected the first part of that quote, which is, everything that we hear is an opinion, not a fact, to the paradox of learning. It's a fact based on the knowledge that we've got now. So,
but
for example,
I think you can't apply this 100% because there are the laws of physics and stuff that we can't argue about,
Sure.
Because they're always constant.
But also not entirely. They are constant. So, for example,
based on our knowledge,
like we can say that 1 + 1 = 2. That's a fact,
Math and physics in general.
But even maths, when the more advanced you go in math and the more advanced that you go into physics, the more you realize that they are true. They are facts right now because of our awareness and our knowledge in the world. We might come to find discover something new in the future, or some sort of new element, new power.
Like the fourth dimension. Or
exactly.
Something.
That could just completely, everything that we know about math, physics, chemistry could just, boom,
it
disappears. And then we have to start from zero again.
Yeah.
So it's a fact just because it's fact based on the awareness that we've got. But once our awareness on the subjects and on life and everything in math that exists expands, these facts could cease to be facts, and then they just become opinions or facts of the past.
Yeah,
I get this.
No, I get your perspective. I get where you're going with this, but I feel like since our knowledge is capped, I think it's okay to call things facts, because we might never reach the point that we know more.
Exactly.
We might never reach the point that we are aware of the real reality, whatever that is. We know that our reality is based on our perception, but we don't know what's behind that. We might never know.
Sometimes the perception of reality.
We need to reach some conclusions. We need to make series so that they make life make a little bit more sense. Understanding a little bit more, with the awareness that we might never know everything. But it's good to know more, because I think it's good to understand life more. It makes you appreciate life more, and I don't know, you start to realize that when things make more sense, life becomes easier in a way. When you know just a little bit more about something, why did this happen? Why did this war started? Why am I thinking in this way? This might not be 100% true, but getting closer helps you cope, I guess. I don't know.
Pursuit of perfection, you might never reach it.
Yeah.
But you'll definitely be better than
exactly
you are today. I don't know who said that quote.
I don't remember, but it's
I've heard that quote many times, and I guess around that time is when I started kind of pursuing perfectionism, in the sense of like I want to know everything there is to know, even though I know that I will never reach that point.
Yeah,
I'm still fine with the journey to see how far I can go.
Just not fixating on the perfectionism part.
Exactly.
It's like the carrot and the stick. The carrot, you might never reach it, but you're going forward. So
you're still getting somewhere.
One last thing I want to mention is that we've talked about signs of growth before, and maybe there's something that we didn't talk about enough, which is really ties well to this episode. The fact that when you're humble
Mhm.
with your learning and you're just seeking knowledge for the sake of curiosity, that's
Mhm.
also a really big sign of growth. Because when you're a teenager, when you don't know much, we try to learn about something. It's either to finish an exam or,
Mhm.
as I said before, to prove that you are right, to be right about something, to tell someone, oh, you're wrong about this, I am right.
Mhm.
But when you're seeking it just because you're curious, you want to know more, that's a sign that you're growing as a person in general.
Definitely.
You know,
Definitely.
that's why I like to say that some people say, I don't like reading books, it's boring. Hey, you might be right. Reading can be boring,
Mhm.
but that's not the point. The point is that it is important to read, just like it's important to sleep, and sleep can be boring, tedious, even weird.
Mhm.
But these are things that you have to do in order to improve in life and grow in life. So I think it's a really important thing as well, that you're seeking knowledge.
It also ties up a little bit to you dismantling your ego. You
Mhm.
know, the more you learn, you know, when you start learning something, as we've mentioned, you become arrogant and you're overconfident.
Mhm.
But then you start realizing that, oh shit, I don't know much, to be honest, and
Yeah.
there's still a lot more to know. And that's kind of when your ego starts, you know, coming back down to reality.
Yeah, go back to earth.
You know, and that kind of dismantles a part of your ego as well. And I guess it's dismantling a part of your ego, or dismantling your ego, is a huge sign of
Oh, yeah.
personal growth.
Yeah.
That's when you start that. I guess like that's when you're able to connect more with yourself and connect more with the world.
Yeah.
And you're able
You
to
start
let
to
go.
go past your opinions and all the
Exactly.
things,
You're just like, you know,
your core beliefs.
I'm gonna go off topic here and connect the ego kill, the ego death kind of, to how you're able to go past your emotional experience and your
Mhm.
all of this. Can I connect it to something Alan Watts said, or at least I've heard Alan Watts saying it. I don't know if he took it from somebody else. He was talking about how everything at face value is of no value.
Mhm.
You know, so if we're gonna we're gonna take this podcast as an example. You know, in reality, it's just two guys sitting here talking. You know, we're spitting out words. We don't know whether they're true or not. There's nothing to it.
And some people don't understand.
Exactly. It's of no value. It's of no value to us.
We're
it's no
making
value
noises
to
with
anyone.
our mouths.
Exactly. We're just like two people sitting here, two consciousness, you know, moving their mouths.
Two animals.
But we're letting thoughts out. We don't know whether they're right or not.
Two
We don't know whether
monkeys
they're
making
true.
noises, you know.
It's when you know that this is how reality is, and you're still able to let go of your ego and still engage in the moment, in the activity, in whatever it is that you're doing. That's when life starts making more sense.
It's not always easy.
It's like when you go to a mountain, for example, if you're natural, if you love nature, and you want to just have a nice view from the top of the mountain, and you're just like looking at nature, you know, nature miracles, if you want to call them that. In a realistic manner, you're just a guy standing there, you know, with your consciousness perceiving how a tree is standing still and how it's
leaves.
Thank you. And how its leaves are just, you know, like going left and right, and there's nothing of meaning to it.
Even the colors, you know.
Nothing of it is of meaning. But it's when you start losing, when you're willing to let go of the ego, and you're willing to lose yourself in the experience. That's when you start looking at the tree and you're just like, that tree looks so good. It's
not always easy. It's not always
It is.
easy.
It's not always easy.
Like I do have these moments.
is
Like I like to go to nature and like sitting there, but then I reach these moments where I'm like,
What am I doing here?
This is meaningless. But then I try to go back to the moment. You know, like it's not always. It's really. It's always a clash. You know, my ego is always trying to go to the surface, take control. You know, and like, no,
it's in our nature.
Reality might have no meaning. Maybe there is no sense, but this is your reality. Take it as it is. Be in the moment. You know, which it's always a clash. Yeah,
I guess that covers it for this episode. But nevertheless, even if you're aware of the paradox of learning, or even if you are in that phase right now where your confidence and your ego are completely crushed because you're realizing that there's so much that you don't know. Remember, this is also just another part of the human experience, and at some point, I don't know how long it's going to take. Your curiosity is going to start to take over, and you're going to start willing to push through that boredom, through that, that there's nothing to learn since
Yeah.
I'm never going to reach that point. And life still goes on, You just have to go through that phase and push through it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to
I
add?
have nothing else to say. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.